My Hero Academia Vigilantes' third episode is out, titled B. Of course, we're going to be breaking down the whole entire episode, as well as the entire season each week, so be sure to Detroit smash that like button and subscribe to the Kidoki channel so that you don't miss any My Hero Academia Vigilantes content. Now, the episode begins with an anime-only scene of Koichi at college learning about heroes and vigilantes during the advent of the extraordinary. Koichi walks home talking about how just because he admires heroes and decided to call himself one doesn't mean he can make a living from it, which is clearly because he is a vigilante and isn't recognized by the government like the officially licensed pro heroes who do get paid doing hero work. He still has his own life to live. Time spent at school, going to work, being at home, and relaxing is all still important for him, making Koichi relatable in the sense that he is still a normal guy trying to live day by day like the rest of us, really hammering in Vigilante's more grounded take on the world of My Hero Academia, showing the difference between vigilantes and pro heroes. Koichi is also rocking a hoodie with the word Astro on it, which is a huge reference to Horikoshi's previous manga Barrage and its main protagonist Astro. Upon entering his home, Koichi is scared seeing an old man he's never met before relaxing in his home. After the opening, the man reveals himself to be Knuckle Duster, and he came into Koichi's room by breaking in through his window. A girl in a uniform shows up at Koichi's home, letting herself in, revealing herself to be Popstep. Koichi isn't sure why everyone is here so early, since they are meant to go on patrol later tonight. Knuckle claims to have finished his day job early, surprising Koichi because he didn't even know he had a job. Pop says she has a live performance later and she's here to change into her outfit. Koichi begins to head out to his job, realizing that his house has become everyone's hangout spot. The anime surprisingly doesn't adapt the pages where he decides to leave them a spare key and lets Pop know that she can take a shower after her show, making her think he has ulterior motives with her, and her comment gets him down in the dumps because he was just trying to be nice. In that same cut content, we see in a flashback where in early April he got his house for only 45,000 yen a month, which is $316 a month. We see how excited he is to start his college life, hoping to have friends over for beer and maybe a possible girlfriend. After one night out drinking with his friends, he suggests to go back to his place since it was very close by. After seeing the very rundown building his house was located at, they get scared and try to head back home. The next day, his friends avoid him and he overhears a ton of rumors about how he tried to drag a girl from his group to an abandoned building and calling him a creep. Koichi never thought his college life would end up being so lonely, and Popstep kind of brushes off his trauma, telling him that he has to go to work. This I feel was important to show because in the scene that follows this, we get an anime only scene that would have directly tied into this dark moment for Koichi. Showing Koichi at the convenience store, here an ad on the TV plays above him of All Might branded chips, which really hammers in Koichi constantly being reminded of the hero life he never got to have. On top of this, he thinks about the college life he thought he was going to have with friends coming over and spending time together, but he hasn't made a single friend since he started college. He then gets scolded by his boss and goes back to work. Switching over to Popstep, at Pop's performance, she sings a new song that also sounds like a complete banger, but if we look into the lyrics a little, she says, "I looked up and saw you flutter through the sky, my heart skips a beat." While sounding like a typical love song, the lyrics sound very familiar to what happened when Pop was falling out of the sky and Koichi going to the sky to save her. Without going into spoilers, this also heavily ties into something that happened to Popstep a few years prior as well. If you know, you know. She also performs her song called Popstep, which was the first song we saw her perform in the first episode, that also heavily ties to Koichi, her past, and future events that happen in the manga. Again, if you know, you know, but I'll be sure to be doing a full breakdown of her songs, the the deeper meaning behind them in a separate video that goes fully into all of the spoilers. At the show, a kid obsessed with Pop gets pushed down, and Ichimoko and Jubei help the guy and fan out for Pop Step. The kid injects himself with Trigger because he wants to shake hands with Pop and chases her down. Koichi finally gets out of work and sees Pop running for her life from the eel-looking instant villain. Koichi quickly changes into his hero suit, and Knuckle Duster suddenly shows up to help. Taking the lead, Knuckle Duster takes out his grappling hook and swings towards Pop to keep up. Koichi grabs onto the villain, and Knuckle Duster comes up from the top, punching the villain, but thanks to the slime coming off of him, his punch doesn't connect, and he falls onto Koichi, and Knuckle Duster notices an udon shop nearby. Since the guy only wanted a handshake, Pop composes herself and gives the villain a handshake, but the villain takes it a step further, wanting more, and tries to go in for a kiss. Unfortunately, this is a sad reality that a lot of idols do have to go through in real life. Koichi pours a bag of flour from the udon shop onto Pop and the villain. The flour sucks up all of the moisture from the eel slime, and Knuckle Duster says it's time to fry up some eel. With the eel now beat up, they aren't able to get any clues about Trigger, since when the villains transform, they end up naked, so they have to take them down before they get the chance to take the drug. The cops show up, and the group splits up, meeting back at Koichi's house, with Pop needing to shower at his place. Pop tells Koichi he needs better shampoo for her hair, and Knuckle tells Koichi that he needs more beer. The two begin to argue, and Koichi heads out to dry their suits, thinking about how this isn't the college life he expected, but he smiles knowing that he has Pop and Knuckle around. Switching over to Detective Tsukauchi, we see the eel guy being interrogated, revealing that a nice guy had offered him Trigger. In the observation room, Tsukauchi notes that every suspect took the drug before going full on villain. Off to the side, Tanuma claims that Trigger is highly illegal in Japan. The majority of the incidents took place within a limited area, ranging from the Naruhata Station shopping district and the old quarter in East Naruhata. Since everything is happening in Naruhata, they should be able to bust the Trigger market soon, since all the suspects said that they got the drug from a stranger. Giving out samples of the drug could lead to something bigger. Tanuma thinks that this could be a greater plot to break down government authority, disrupting law and order. Regardless, it's a plot to make a lot of money to invest in something even bigger than that. The anime does remove Teruo, the eel villain, being released with Tsukauchi tailing him, and Teruo running into Ichimoku and Jubei outside of the police department. At Koichi's house, Ichimoku and Jubei send Pop a message about knowing Teruo and how he might know something about Trigger, giving the vigilantes their first big clue on who could be distributing the drug. For a mini Easter egg, the All Might themed mug that Koichi drinks out of is straight up manga panels from the My Hero Academia manga. That is, of course, drawn by Horikoshi himself. When Koichi and Pop head out to see what Teruo has to say about Trigger, Hachisuka, the B villain, can be seen in the shop behind Koichi and Pop. The two then run into the girl with an eye patch named Hachisuka, claiming to be a fan of Pop Step, taking a picture with her. The two meet up with Ichimoku, waiting on Jubei to return with Teruo. Knuckle Duster also happens to be at the cafe next to them, shocking Koichi because they were trying to get the information without Knuckle beating the information out of Teruo. A bee is then seen going into Hachisuka's eye patch, and she tells her friends that she has to get to her part-time job. Here we find out that Queen Hachisuka is a second-year high schooler who is a part-time villain. Her quirk is called Queen Bee, with her name Queen sounding like Queen, matching her quirk. Her bees are filled with Trigger, and her job is to use them to inject people with the drug, turning random citizens into instant villains. A swarm of bees flood out of her eye patch, stinging random people, causing their quirks to go haywire, causing a ton of instant villains to appear at once. The chaos causes Jubei and Teruo to get separated, and with Tsukauchi no longer following Teruo like he does in the manga, he receives a call about the instant villain outbreak and puts out an emergency distress call to any heroes in the area, instead of instantly putting out the call because he was in the area. The vigilantes can hear people shouting nearby, and Knuckle Duster sees a bee flying by with him going after it. Tons of heroes begin to appear on the scene. Airjet Jet, Ida's brother Ingenium, Endeavor, Snipe, Best Genius, Eraserhead, Present Mike, Midnight, 13, Death Arms, along with other heroes, show up to put a stop to the instant villain outbreak. They all take down the villains in this really cool comic inspired paneling, with even All Might himself showing up to take down the biggest villain with a Texas Smash, ending the instant villain rampage. Knuckle Duster captures the bee, landing in front of Jubei, letting him know that there is a bee user in the area, and crushes the bee with his hands, which ends up hurting Hachisuka, showing that the queen bee quirk works as a hive mind system where the queen bee can be hurt by the destruction of the other bees. It's then revealed that Hachisuka is actually with Teruo, walking with him down an alley. The episode ends with Koichi narrating how they still don't know the true identity of who they are fighting, about the real threat that was lurking in the city's shadows. Unaware of the danger they were in, they continued on through their short time of peace, and we see the group talking outside of the cafe as Knuckle Duster looks off to the side, frustrated, looking as if he knows more than he's actually leading on. Now, this episode covered 2 chapters, them being chapters 4 and 5. Definitely a fan of the comic book aesthetic, with the heroes taking down the instant villains. Another highlight for me has to be Popstep somehow always having a new original song to sing. Overall, great episode, definitely a more relaxed episode. I'm sure next week there is going to be some controversy surrounding Koichi, just like in the first episode, but I am looking forward to the next episode. Let me know in the comment section below your thoughts on the 3rd episode of My Hero Academia Vigilantes. With that said, be sure to Detroit smash that like button, and if you enjoyed the video, then be sure to subscribe to the Kiroki channel with notifications on so that you don't miss any My Hero Academia Vigilantes content, and I'll see you all in the next one.